All right, here we are starting Psych 36, Meditation and Mindfulness, Lecture 1, and Meditation and Mindfulness, Lesson 1 that we're going to learn. So we'll begin with mindfulness. And we begin, of course, with the definition, like we academics love to do, so that we know what we're talking about. And you might hear various different ideas about what mindfulness is, but the idea is, are we here, really here, or are we lost in thought, hypnotized by thought, carried away by thought? So the idea behind mindfulness is that we become aware, including aware of our thinking mind, right? So that our mind is thinking. So we bring ourselves back to a larger state of awareness rather than being hooked by thought, or what's often referred to as lost in thought. So it actually creates more spaciousness for us, right? So we drop in to where we are right now. And let's take a look at this fun video about why mindfulness is a superpower. And this is by Dan Harris. Go. Now, this is a fun video. I don't know if any of you have heard of Dan Harris. He's a former newscaster. And we'll look at several videos by them, who started an app called 10% Happier, which features a whole bunch of meditation teachers doing meditations. And we'll reference that, a lot of their meditations as we go along. But let's check this out. Why mindfulness is a superpower. Very fun.
It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car, thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you. And now all of us do it. And if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
So that's a fun video by Dan Harris about why mindfulness is a superpower. Let's take a look at it, okay? And you might think of a situation that you experienced that's like this, right? Because I used to have really a very strong temper, and I never thought I could figure out how to calm down my temper, even though I had been through many different kinds of psychological therapies and things like that. And it was actually through practicing meditation and mindfulness that I was able to get on top of that, powerful feelings that I feel whenever I get really angry. And, usually I wouldn't have any problem with it in the social sphere or things like that. It would be, of course, more at home and with my partner. So it's like I never would really lose my temper with anybody but my partner. But I didn't want to lose my temper with him either. And here's that idea of losing, right? We lose our sense of control. We lose our sense of ability to choose how to respond. We're actually reacting. And what we're going to learn is that we're reacting on autopilot. So on a mammalian autopilot. I mean, if something goes after my dog's bone, my dog growls, he gets mad and doesn't want him to go after his bone. She'll defend her bone, right? And that's what's happening to us because we're mammals, right? But we're mammals with a very unique brain, a brain that can actually zoom out and observe itself. And we don't know of any other species, maybe dolphins, we don't know, that can do this, right? So this is the reacting moment, right? The feeling of the anger and then the explosion of expressing the anger. As he says, there's no buffer between the stimulus and the reaction. And you can pick any reaction. It can be anxiety or whatever. It frequently is frustration. People often displace, Freud notices, their frustration onto others. So they have a hard day at work and they go snap at their roommates, or they feel more critical of their kids or whatever it is, right? It taints how we're seeing the world. And what meditation and mindfulness do is they enable us to step back and see that. So you can see that you're starting to get angry, right? I'm getting pissed. And then that's the point where you actually have a moment of choice. Not at first, because we're very habitual, right? So we have a habitual programming that acts on autopilot. So it happens in little incremental steps. We get more and more and more aware. And then we become aware, wow, I'm starting to feel redness in my face and a churning in my stomach. I'm starting to get angry. So that means, okay, I'm not going to react. I'm going to withdraw and take care of myself and help calm myself down first, right? And then respond. So it's an evolutionary process where as we gain the skill, we gain an increasing ability to become more aware of what's going on around us, right? And as we become more aware, we gain that point of that sacred pause, right? That ability to make the wise choice, to not push send on that pissed off email, but withdraw instead, calm down. And then when we calm down, we get our whole brain back and we're able to think more clearly and more creatively about solutions. And we'll learn about the neuroscience of how that works as we go along, right? So I just described this. I remember this story. This wasn't that long ago. This was like 6 months ago. I walked into Subway and my pre-order wasn't ready. And I was feeling a lot of stress and pressure, right? So that because of the stress and pressure, I reacted. My autopilot, the part of me that's a dog going after my bone, reacted like this should have been done a while ago. That was a reflexive and automatic response. But I saw it. I saw my mind doing this because I've been practicing mindfulness, and the class helps me practice mindfulness. We gain, it's like a group helps each other grow faster, right? So what I did, instead of react in that moment because I saw it, was I was able to shift to a state of kindness. And I actually had a very moving connection with the person who was making the sandwich. So it's becoming aware of who is also feeling stressed and pressured. So rather than carry on that tirade in my mind, which was nonsense, I was able to shapeshift it in that moment. And we're not always able to shapeshift it, but with increasing practice, we are able to shapeshift it, partly because meditation and mindfulness include learning how to take good care of ourselves inside. If we're mean to ourselves inside, if we're too hard on ourselves or don't approach ourselves with loving kindness, then we don't have a safe environment inside. And when we don't have a safe environment inside, we feel anxious and stressed. So it doesn't really, the second lecture is on the value of cultivating this positive interior environment, this being on your own side kind of environment within, because then we can be more gentle. We're not our defensive structures where we have to defend ourselves, which is actually a form of aggression, right? Feeling unsafe, that we have to defend ourselves. Feeling that inside creates more, antagonistic kind of expressions, right? But when we feel safe inside, when we cultivate that feeling of being on our own side, being self-supportive, then we're able to shift and not feel so defensive, because we start off with an interior that feels self-supportive. So creating self-supportive, being both aware, but also compassionate toward ourselves, understanding that life's hard for everybody here. Life's hard for you too. And it is a challenging game that we play here on life. This isn't an easy game, right? So it helps us, part of it is cultivating that what's often referred to as loving kindness. Loving kindness. So this is why meditation is often referred to as, or leads us to waking up, because it gives us a whole nother perceptual view of the world. It's almost like climbing higher on the mountain. You can see more as you go further up, right? So mindfulness, being aware of the present moment, here and now, increases our impulse control, as I described to you with me and my temper. And now I'm much better at it, way light years better. You know, I used to think there's no way I could control this. And now I know I can. And it was only this who led that after like literally 30 years of being a psychologist before I spent 10 years, doing meditation and mindfulness regularly. And that's when the click or the shift happened. It's a beautiful thing. There are many advantages to practicing this, including, yes, you will experience blissful states, but they will come and they will go. So we have to let go of the blissful states. There's a famous book about that called Chop Wood, Carry Water, which means that after meditation, do the laundry, before meditation, do the laundry, that it enriches our life, but it doesn't solve all the problems because life's filled with them. It does create a much better world inside and a greater ability to make wiser choices, mindful choices, not pushing the send button. Okay, so while it won't solve all our problems, it really is a superpower. And I have to totally agree with that. So let's do our first mindfulness exercise. Let's take a breath. And relax, 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 relax. And I'm just going to walk you through a very simple exercise. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have, in fact, don't close your eyes. And this is a mindfulness exercise. It's called all sensory awareness. It's very fun. You can do it all the time. And we're going to look in a minute what it does. It takes you out of what's called the default mode, the autopilot tape of thought running in your head. So first, you're going to notice what you can see. Okay. And as you notice what you can see, relax your eyes so you can see through your peripheral vision. Like if you put your hands on the side of your head, you can see them. So relax your eyes and just notice what you can see and relax your eyes. This is called Hakala eyes or wide eyes. And when you see wide, it automatically relaxes. You might notice some muscles start to relax and things like that because the body can't go into peripheral vision and tension at the same time. It has to relax to go into peripheral vision. So peripheral vision, this is why walking in nature is so good for you because your eyes are out looking wide and it activates the parasympathetic relaxation system to open into wide eyes. Okay, so just allow yourself to open into wide eyes, drop your shoulders and notice what you can hear. Just put your attention on the sounds. And then notice what you can feel. Notice the feeling of your body in the chair, the air around you. Notice the feeling of behind you. You can sense behind you because of what's called proprioception. Okay, so sense behind you. Notice your thoughts. Often when we sense behind us, our thoughts quiet. You want to keep the peripheral vision. See, hear, feel, sense behind you, and take a breath. Okay. Very good. So you may experience a wider or a shift in perception. How many of you had a little bit of a shift in perception when you went through the see, hear, feel exercise? Okay, so this is what you want to do 2 times a day, 3 times a day. Just see, relax to wide eyes, hear, notice what you can hear. Fastest way to mindfulness is to activate the senses. Gets us out of our thinking mind, right? feel. Just notice what you're feeling. Notice what you're feeling inside. And you're just noting, simple noticing. Feel behind you, and then take a breath. And it's nice to say at the end, relax, 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 right? Teaching your body to feel safe, okay? So that's a quick mindfulness. That's called all sensory awareness shift, okay? It wakes us up, wakes up our attention to our different senses, and helps us relax with the peripheral vision and the breath, right? Okay, so mindfulness exercise 1. So meditation, that puts us in a state of mindfulness. Meditation, it might just last a few seconds, and that's fine, right? And then we just build on that and we continue to practice it. And you can do this see, hear, feel, breathe many times a day, right? And if sometimes when you do it, you might notice something like a particular sensation, like you're standing up, washing a dish, and you do the see with the relaxing of the eyes, hear the water running, feeling the water on your hand. And you may find yourself in a state of absorption for a few moments of really feeling that water dripping on your hands, right? Really dropping into the fullness and the richness of the experience. And that's one of the great benefits of practicing mindfulness. You might find yourself seeing things you don't normally see, catching things, hearing things, including listening for the silence. Okay, so again, an exercise that begins to strengthen a wider spectrum of awareness, right? So meditation consists of a variety of exercises that strengthens our ability to be mindful, to have that broad spectrum awareness, bigger awareness, more awareness. Okay, so it sort of does this, right? We can be kind of enmeshed or entangled with everything, like fully, so immersed in it that we can't see the forest for the trees. And so meditation is about disentangling. And when we disentangle, we can choose how to engage, right? Rather than being carried away. Okay, that's why it's lost in thought. That's why it's called waking up, because you can wake up to this space, and in this space, the space is the place of choice. That's where that's where the superpower is, right? So meditation is a series of exercises that help us with that disentangling from being enmeshed with this world, right? Lost in thought, where thought takes us over or emotions take us over. So that's what the exercises, enable us to do. So what are all those thoughts in our head? We're going to take a quick look at what's called the default mode network. And, this is a really interesting thing. This is from neuroscience, where they're able to watch how things, when you think about wires, when you wire up your stereo, okay, which you don't do so much. So you wire up your laptop and your speakers, and now you do it on Bluetooth, but there's still invisible wires, right? So there's a network that's happening. You're connecting a network, and it may be invisible with the Bluetooth, but you're still creating a network between your computer and the speaker, right? So it's a network, a connection that goes on. And in neuroscience, they measure, they're able to see now, because of MRIs, which are only about 25 years old, they're able to see the networks. And so when we do different things, what is our brain? What kind of networks are alive in our brain when we're daydreaming? What kind of networks are alive in our brain when we're feeling good? What kind of networks are showing up? What's the network signature for when we're stressed out? What's the network signature for feeling deeply relaxed and centered, right? So they have identified the network signature for thinking. And it's pretty much autopilot thoughts. So the default mode network is an autopilot thought system that runs, and it's like a ticker tape of thoughts running in your head automatically. And so you'll observe these thoughts, and you'll notice that you'll hear a thought that's like, I don't want to go to class today. And you'll hear another thought that is, well, I really do want to go to class today. So you'll hear conflicting thoughts, right? You'll hear thoughts looking at things from different points of view. And it's a network. It's a network that's already been established, and we get lost in that network. So we don't realize that we're not the network. We are definitely not the default mode network, because you go into other modes than the default mode network. But the default mode network is a ticker tape that runs automatically, and it picks up information from the environment about what is needed for your survival, and it repeats it in your own head, right? So this chart shows you the autopilot default mode network system compared to your intentional system, where you are thinking on purpose and reflectively about something, as compared to on autopilot. It's really, it takes a little bit for us to grasp that when we learn how to drive to a new place, to a friend's house, and we don't know how to get there. And the first time we rely on the GPS, but by the third time, our brain has put it on autopilot. It has learned it, and we can drive directly to our friend's house without having to think about it at all. So the brain puts things that we've learned on autopilot, and it does that with our thoughts too. So you hear from a parent that you should go to college. You hear from another parent that you should be really focus on something, a particular kind of career field that might be really growing right now. But you have another side of you that wants to be an artist, right? So you have these conflicting thoughts, these different points of view, all of which are important to you. Your default mode network will remember what your parent says and repeat it back to you, because the parent is important to you. So it's the default mode network has learned how to pick that stuff up in the same way that your brain memorized how to get from your house to your friend's house. And so that ticker tape of the default mode network is not you. It's a tool that you have. It's a thinking tool that you have and that you can draw on. But the vast majority, and this cognitive ability of having a default mode network, which is very heavily leans on our story, my story, what I need, what's valuable to me, and it sees the world from a very personal point of view, right? So we want to teach the default mode network to expand the point of view to not just be mine, right, but everyone else's. And that's sort of part of what the human species is going through right now, is continuing to expand our view of what's important. So one of the things that we can do is start to get familiar with the default mode network and begin to disentangle from it, so that we don't think that we are the default mode network, right? And the default mode network is often anxious and worried, and so because of the negativity bias of the brain, right? So you heard me mention this, that when you learn to drive, first you had to use your intentional system, especially, to listen to the GPS tell you how to get there, to follow the instructions. But after a while, it put it on to the autopilot system. And what we don't realize is that our thoughts have an autopilot system too. And it's picked up things like the ads that you looked at the grocery store and what the people look like. And because we're socially concerned, we're a pack species. And because we're socially concerned, we're going to be looking at those ads, and part of our default mode network will pick that up and say, this is important to the society you're in. And then our intentional system reflects on it, right? But we can get lost in the default mode network. And basically that's what's happened to us, is we've gotten lost in the default mode network. This is sort of a view of neural networks. You can kind of see, and you can just think about them as like wiring, like when you wire something up, you wire up your music system or whatever. So, and the default mode network is wired largely by past experience. So the default mode network is not really the most creative part of your brain. You have other networks. You've got a salience network, which is the bigger picture, seeing the bigger picture rather than just the default mode network is very focused on me. You heard me already, and we will be talking about this much more as we go along. This is just a an overview, an introduction. So you have a sense of what's going on with all those thoughts in your heads and why you can think thoughts that you don't agree with or that you think are preposterous, why those thoughts can pop into your head. And we're just beginning to explore this from a psychological point of view. So we can tease apart what is really us, right? So you heard me mention the negativity bias of the brain, which is simply that our brain is designed to overwire and over pay attention to negative experiences and positive ones, which is why it's so easy to ruminate on negative things, because the brain has literally wired those in more intensely. So let's look at some neural wiring. Here is a neural wiring slide. So this shows you neurons growing. So something good happens and it barely grooves in, but something bad happens and the brain automatically wires it in real intensely because that was more associated with survival. This slide, this literally shows you neurons growing as you learn something. Unfortunately, we learn negative things. We overlearn from the negative and we underlearn from the positive. We can often dismiss the positive, which can lead us to thinking that things are worse than they really are. And when we learn something new, let's say you learn something like a term like the default mode network, at first it's brand new, so you barely know it, like when you're learning to drive to your friend's house. And then next time you learn it better and more neurons grow. And so this becomes a highway, right? Until now your mind can do it on autopilot because it knows it really well. It can automatically spit up the answer or get you to your friend's house, right? And so when we unlearn something, we go through a similar process. Actually, not really. There is some what's called neural pruning and neural disintegration, but we also learn something new. So when we recover from something like a traumatic event, it isn't just that the neurons start to dissipate, like they die off. It's also, there is a little of that where it goes in the opposite direction, right? Where the neural highway gets looser. But there's also a new neural highway grows that says, I went through this trauma, we might get to here, but I can get past it, okay? I am strong and resilient, right? I can even deal with this. So that's very interesting, right? That part of getting over trauma is building new neural highways. And when we have neural paths that are really strong of paying too much attention to the default mode network, right? To the toddler in our head, which is what I liken it to, right? And it's a great tool, but it is just one of many tools as we see. And we don't want to be too enmeshed with it, right? We want to be able to disentangle from it so we can observe it and make wise choices relative to it. And I know you've been through the experience probably multiple times where you have been, caught up in a thought form that after time, or an emotional state that after time, when you disentangled from it, you saw the world differently, right? So what this is cultivating the ability to disentangle from it. So let's take a moment and just do our see, hear, feel, mindfulness exercise for a moment, okay? And it's always nice to take a breath and then notice what you can see, and then relax your eyes so that you have wide eyes. And you may notice that your shoulders might start to relax when you do that, because widening your vision automatically stimulates the body's relaxation system, right? And then notice what you can hear. You're just shifting your attention. Okay, you're showing that you have control over your attention. When you hold a yoga pose, when you hold a position, when you hold the plank, you're teaching your body, we can do this. And you're also teaching your mind now, right? So seeing, wide eyes, hearing, feeling, noticing the air around you, your body in the chair, noticing what's inside you, just taking note, and then behind you. And then take a breath. And you might, or probably perhaps, feel that you have a wider experience, right? You've widened, you've pulled out from being in a compressed state and you're opening to a wider state. Okay, so first quiz question. What is the default mode network? Okay, go ahead and type in your responses in the chat, and I will go to the slide that helps you define your default mode network. It's the autopilot thinking part of our brain, right? An automatic background thinking program of your mind. So type that into the chat because that's the quiz question. And as you do that, you're building the neural wiring. So writing out notes, writing out thoughts, making connections between what you think, what you're learning, writing out those connections and real life. All right. Those are all examples of how you build neural connections. You learn better. Okay. So sitting and listening, you'll learn X amount, writing things down and concentrating while you do it, you'll learn more. Okay. So good. You're doing a great job of writing down what the default mode network is. Now, are you able to notice the default mode network when you're, are you able to observe your default mode network? It's basically observing your thoughts, watching yourself thinking. Okay. So the next time we do see, hear, feel, I'm going to encourage you to notice your thoughts. All right. So that you can just observe them. And a lot of times, as I mentioned, when you go into wide eyes and you sense behind you, that proprioception of sensing behind you, isn't that a cool feeling to sense behind you? We usually don't pay attention to it, but we can do it. And it's a neat feeling. It opens us up to another level of sensory awareness. So that's what we're building, is our sensory awareness muscles, as well as our concentration muscles. So a lot of times when we sense behind us, our thinking stops, right? Because it's an interesting thing for the mind to do, to sense behind us. So see, hear, feel, breathe can help calm that thinking brain. All right. So now another quiz question is, what is the negativity bias? Now the negativity bias is and you want to write this down in the chat. The negativity bias of the brain is our brain's tendency to overlearn from the negative experiences we've had. So if our ancestors went gathering in a particular area and came across not one, but two rattlesnakes, they would learn that in deeply. That, scary stuff that frightens us, it grooves in intensely. But even small things that bother us can overgroove in. So we would feel natural compassion if we knew someone who felt more pain, like if you touched them somewhere and they felt pain, we would feel compassion for that. So we can feel compassion for ourselves, that our brain is pre-designed to feel that more pain than it is designed to feel good. And so a lot of modern neuroscience is about how we want to work to offset that. And an example I use is that we're sort of designed, as you get older, to sort of lean forward, to curl forward, right? But that's not good for you. We want to stand up and feel our heart reach the sun, right? We want Daenerys's posture, which is shoulders back and down and heart connected to the sun. So, not like this, right? Which is what this will make us do. So we want to open. So go ahead and try that. Go ahead and open a little bit, shoulders back and down. Feel that natural curve in your back. And let's take a breath. Okay. And so this is why, to offset the negativity bias, this is why what we want to do is something, we want to cultivate the positive within ourselves. We want to train our neurons that we can feel good, that it's okay to feel good and it's okay to feel safe. All right. So we'll continue with the negativity. This is why we think about those negative things a lot. And it's also why our autopilot perception is often referred to as Maya illusion. So breaking out of the illusion is breaking out of the trance of the negativity bias of the brain, breaking out of the trance of being entangled with the default mode network part of the brain. So the default mode network can carry on and we can not be caught up with it. And that's what meditation enables us to do increasingly. Okay, so your default mode network thoughts are not you. They're a program. And we'll look at this more and more, right? They're a program that's influenced by what you learn from everything around you. And it's a program designed to keep you safe and to protect you, right? So it has a bit of a bias. It's almost like your personal defense attorney, but we don't need to have our defenses activated all the time, right? So, and the default mode network can be that way. So we don't have to be overly enmeshed with it. Okay, so both meditation and mindfulness exercises help us shift out of being too enmeshed with the default mode network, which is the drama king or queen within our minds, right? And gives us more perspective. And it's not that we don't want to draw on the information of the default mode network, but at least when we're not enmeshed with it, we can begin to have choice, right? So I drive with a lot of people who, when somebody cuts them up, they automatically get caught up in getting angry at the person. And this is the mammal part of our brain acting on autopilot, just like my dog gets mad when somebody goes after her food. Another dog comes over here, she's going to over the food, right? So that's that part of our brain doing that when it's autopilot. What we're cultivating is a higher function of the brain, a higher function of our ability to disengage. We don't have to be caught up in that autopilot reaction. We can develop another level of perceptual awareness and actually live from it. And I think I think it will be completely transformative. I mean, imagine people not being driven by these mammalian instincts, but rather able to become aware of them, not totally disengaged from them, but be able to create some space so they're not completely consumed and taken over. I mean, I'm sure you guys know relationships, and perhaps you've been in one where the people were completely enmeshed, right? And there was no individual sense of self. And so they get too entangled with each other, right? So there isn't a sense of standing independently. And so we want to sustain that sense. We want to be able to disentangle and soothe and calm things, right? So we're not used to it. I think that ever since cognition, thinking, and the ability to think came into our species, which hasn't been that long, just a couple 100,000 years, it's consumed more and more of our attention. And so we're used to our attention being consumed by the default mode network. So this is why it's not always easy to meditate. When you try to sit still and meditate and watch your mind, you're watching a toddler act out, and it takes a little bit of time for the toddler to calm down. So this is why we're going to be learning a beginning method of meditation that helps the whole system calm down before we do the concentration part, which is observing thought and just watching that toddler act out, observing emotions, and holding that calmness, which creates that space, creates that disentangling. So first we'll create relaxation. So this is our neural path, and it takes a little while. At first it'll feel like this, then it'll feel like this, then it'll feel like this, then it'll become much, much easier. Okay. So meditation, there are lots of different kinds of exercises that are included in meditation, many different styles, and we'll be looking at lots of different kinds of exercises for meditation. So you don't have to, there won't be just one, so that you can find the way of tuning in, of centering, of another thing that happens in meditation is we're very used to focusing on the outside world, and it leads us to bringing our attention to the inside world. We're like walking planets, right? We have weather inside, we have emotions, powerful thoughts, powerful feelings, powerful drives, powerful impulses, and not a whole lot of training on how to go in and tend to this world inside. And meditation is about learning how to go in and tend to this, what to care for. That's again, that loving kindness part, so most people will say mindfulness is becoming aware of the present moment with acceptance, with loving kindness, suspending the judgment, taking a step back, right? So when we do the C, so let's do that. Let's take a breath and just notice, and you'll probably notice something different that you hadn't seen before in your room. So this is an expanding sense of perception. So wide eyes, notice what you see, notice what you hear. Just really tuning into that sense. Notice what you feel. Notice what you feel outside of you. Notice what you feel within. And then just observe your thought. What kind of thoughts are happening in your head? And sense behind you. Take a breath and send some love to your heart. I'm safe, all is well. Okay, and relax. And you probably expanded your perception a little bit when you did that. So that is one kind of exercise, right? And meditation consists of many, and some will click with you more than others. All right, so we'll be exploring different kinds of meditation and mindfulness exercises so that you can find the ones that click with you and that you can do on a regular basis. This is the short list of some of the benefits of cultivating and practicing meditation and mindfulness. And I'm going to ask you to write in the chat which of these you're most drawn to, or the effect that you want the most. And so this is listening within, right? Noticing. This is a kind of contemplative practice, is to tune in and become aware of what you're feeling inside about something. So as I read these, pick one or two to write down that most speaks to you as you listen inside, right? That you would like to gain through this course, over this course. So regulate emotions and stress. It gives us enhanced ability, as I shared in my temper story. Gives us a bigger picture perspective. We have a wider view. We can take in more information, actually, about what's going on. It increases our ability to think creatively and problem solve, because it activates that part of the brain, especially when we cultivate safety within. It enhances our concentration, ability to focus and direct our attention. And of course, scattered attention is one of the things that our technology cultivates. So this is a great value. Be patient and less judgmental of self and others. Helps us recover better after setbacks and challenges. And strengthens self-discipline. Improves immune function and helps us be more fully engaged with life. So those are our goals. So which ones speak most to you? Write them in the chat as part of your quiz question. More patient, better regulate stress and be disciplined. Excellent. These are great. Excellent. Good job. So remember, to answer the quiz question, you want to write down which of these most speaks to you. And so we're tuning in to do that. Okay, now we're going to move to our meditation lesson 1. I think with the practice, you now know the see, hear, feel behind you. Feel where you are in space. That's proprioception, knowing where you are in space. Closing your eyes, you know where you are in space. That's proprioception. And your ability to sense behind you is also proprioception. So it's very real. Take a breath and feel some love. So now we're going to do meditation lesson 1. Okay, so basically, a lot of times I listen to many different kinds of meditations, and a lot of times I will hear, just allow your breathing to be as it is, which is good. But let's first learn how to breathe because it's core. I mean, when you imagine monks going to meditate, they don't go to war-torn areas. They go to quiet, beautiful places, and they cultivate rhythm and routine and calm and safety. Okay, that's where they practice meditation. So they create a safe space to practice meditation. They create an environment that fosters practicing meditation. And after they've developed the skill, then they can go into the, difficult situations and use what they've gained from meditation. So we very much want to learn the skill. We need to calm. We can't, it's almost impossible to have a calm mind when you don't have a calm body. And we usually don't have a calm body in our culture because we breathe shallowly, upper part of our chest, instead of down into the center and lower part of our body. So we're going to learn something we'll learn a lot more about it as we go along. It's called heart rate coherence breathing or heart rate variability breathing. And it's basically a way of breathing that synchronizes the heart and the brain and creates a rhythmic heartbeat. All right. So it calms your heartbeat, which maximizes the functioning in your body. So all elite military forces learn this. It's a core part of the training. This is based on hard science. It is very well known, and it's something we can learn how to do all day, every day, right? So this is a stressed breathing pattern, and it is a stressed body. And that means the mind and the body are in sync with each other. So they're like synchronized swimmers. So if the body's agitated, the mind is going to move and agitated. So we want to know the very basics about how to calm the mind. So we developed this heart rate coherence, which is a smooth heart rate that has some irregularity to it, but a natural regularity that's sort of like that's supposed to be there rather than a jagged heart rate. And this is all done through the breath. So we're calming the system when we do it, when we do heart rate variability breathing or heart rate coherence breathing. All right. So there's a quick coherence technique, super easy to do this breathing, and you can do it anytime. I do it all the time when I'm in line. Anytime I'm in line, that's a trigger for me to go into heart rate variability, or HERV, I call it, or heart rate coherence, whatever term you want to use. And basically, when I'm listening to people and I need to calm down because the mind is often associated with the chemical air, because the mind can move very fast, way faster than our bodies. So we start to feel like we need to move as fast as the mind, and that makes us agitated because we can't. So this is slowing the whole system down, bringing it back down to the speed of light, and it entails heart-focused breathing and heart feeling. So let's look at the technique, okay? And then we'll practice it. I'll do it with you. A little bit of a longer session of it. We breathe slow and rhythmically through the heart, with the out breath going out 1 to 2 counts longer than the in breath. Okay, so we lengthen the out breath. Lengthening the out breath stimulates the parasympathetic or relaxation response within the body. And then we consciously relax, because you'll notice tension in your body, right? So you relax your shoulders, relax your eyes, and I'll guide you through releasing some tension and say, relax, relax, relax. You can breathe in and out through your heart. So you imagine breathing in and out of your heart, and then you activate a positive emotion. So think of something that you're grateful for, something that you love, something you're looking forward to, anything like that, right? So it's super easy, super quick. It can be done anytime. We're going to create rhythmic breathing. So the breathing goes in and out, slightly longer out breath. We slow our out breath. And if we can, it's nice to drop the breathing lower and lower into the belly. I'm going to guide you to that, because if we do a little bit of a longer out breath, then our next in breath will be a little deeper, and we can drop it down further into the body. So to do that, we need to relax our belly, because a lot of times our abdomen is tight. So we don't have to push ourselves to drop into the belly. We allow ourselves to drop the breath into the belly by relaxing. Okay, so I'm going to put on some music, and then we will, I'll guide you through, and you can close your eyes for this or however you wish. And you can turn on or off your video, however you want to do. All right, so this is just going to be this short and quick coherence technique. Okay, so let's roll our shoulders. Might want to stretch a little bit, and let's take a breath in. And I usually go to the count of 4 and then release to the count of 5. Breathe out a little more. Really empty the lungs, breathing in. You'll notice now it's probably dropping lower. Count of 4. And then releasing to the count of 5. Breathe out a little more. And in, 2, 3, 4. Open the shoulders, fill your chest, connect with the sun. And release. Let go. Let go. Let go. Let go. Out a little more and in. 2, 3, 4. Open the shoulders, lift the chest, lift the chin slightly, position of dignity, and release. Let your shoulders drop. Relax your jaw. Relax the tension in your forehead. Breathe out a little bit more. Breathing in. 2, 3. You might feel your spine start to straighten. 4. Open your shoulders and release. Relax. 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 Out a little more. Really empty those lungs. And in. 2, 3, 4. Open the shoulders. Breathe in a little more. And release. Let's relax. 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 Now let's tune our attention to our heart and breathe in from our heart. Breathing in. Count of 4. And releasing. Letting go. Relaxing, sending good feelings to your heart. Count of 5 or 6 for your out breath. Longer out breath. This relaxes the body. You might feel your jaw start to relax and your shoulders. Breathing in through the heart. Allow yourself to think of something that you're grateful for, that you love, that you enjoy, that you're looking forward to. Little spark of positive emotion. Building those neurons. And releasing, breathing out from the heart, creating that coherence, that synchrony. Breathing out, this is called heart rate variability or heart rate coherence breathing. And in, we'll do 2 more, breathing in from the heart. And thinking about someone or something that you love, that makes you feel good, that you're grateful for, that you're looking forward to. And 1 more, breathing in. Maybe allow a smile, a gentle, barely perceptible smile, your lips to turn up and releasing, letting go, bringing to your heart and mind something that you appreciate, look forward to, are excited about, care about. And then I always like to close by taking a breath. And I'm extending this to you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Now you can open your eyes. Come back into the room. I see some smiles. That's so nice. How are you feeling? Are you feeling a little more relaxed, more centered? This last slide is always the 2 meditation and mindfulness exercises that we do during the week. I hope you had a positive experience. I really appreciate you being here. This is how we do things. I love what you wrote about what you liked, learning about the negativity bias and the breathing meditation, heart rate breathing. Oh, good. You're exponentially calmer. Right on. Dropping into all sensory awareness. Nice. Yeah. See, wait till you go outside and do it. It's super fun to do all sensory awareness when you're out walking. The negativity bias. Okay. Excellent, everybody. Yeah. It's amazing. There are very few people that know about the default mode network. So right on. Yes. Good job, everybody. Thank you all so much. We're ending 2 minutes late. I don't want to be late. I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you all so much. I'll stick around if anybody has any questions. So if you want to stay and ask me some questions, you're welcome to. I've got about 5 minutes I can stay before I have to go on to the next thing. And I thank you all. All right. So remember to practice your mindfulness, your all sensory awareness, your heart rate coherence meditation this week. Okay. And we'll tune in next week and see how you're doing.